edition of Black Dragon Biker News Network. Biker news you can trust. And as always, we'd like to thank you for tuning in from wherever it is in the world that you happen to be. With new YouTube policies and demonetization of certain videos that depict violence or mention certain subjects, like motorcycle clubs, we now more than ever need your donations to help keep our content strong and compelling. We ask that you consider donating to our channel using either PayPal, Cash App, or Patreon. A small donation as little as $2 to $5 per month will go a long way in ensuring your content remains compelling and interesting. Thank you. So I started this motorcycle club protocol channel for several reasons. And I talk about that often when I talk about this channel. And one of the main reasons was to help 99%ers stay out of trouble with 1%ers. Several reasons, but one of the big reasons was that. You know, the kind of trouble that makes MC life bad for all sides and destroys our reputations in front of the public in general. Every time we have something that erupts on a news channel, it destroys life, reputations, lifestyle, liberty, freedom, pursuit of happiness for all motorcycle clubs. So I felt like if I could keep folks out of problems, then I was doing my part to help the biker set, the biker diaspora and all across America, do bigger and better things and have more longevity. So this channel was kind of my way to give back to something I've been in 30 plus years. And as a result, it's had good and bad results. There are many people who have taken issue with my post, accusing me of teaching some kind of un-Americanism, some type of communism, and all kinds of other BS. And of course, I get a lot of folks on the channel that will never own a bike or be in a club chiming in about how many folks they would shoot up, especially when we're talking about MC protocol. And you get one guy talking about he's going to shoot up 50 people like some kind of way. They stopped making guns and ammunition when they sold it to him. And everybody gets rich off of just selling guns and ammunition to him and him alone. He's going to take on a motorcycle club with 50 people for stopping him because they don't like his colors. It's kind of ridiculous, but that's what we go through. And then there's been whole channels that dedicate themselves to attacking me every video they make, just running off at the mouth. But one of my viewers sent me this video that was made a few days ago about the Ruff Ryders motorsports organization, that group that blew up sometime in the late 90s, early 2000s, and spread chapters all across the world in a matter of just a few years, to have become perhaps the second largest motorcycle group of enthusiasts in the entire world, second probably to law enforcement motorcycle clubs that have 20, 30,000 members. But even though they sprang up initially, popped up, however you want to say it, without following any motorcycle club protocol, they were quickly brought in to check in many places around the country. You see them, you see when you look like a motorcycle club and gather up like a motorcycle club and hang out where motorcycle clubs hang out, then you can definitely expect that a dominant motorcycle club will show up to find out who you are and ensure that you are operating according to MC protocol. And it really doesn't matter what other people have to say, like those that chime in on this channel. They can talk all of that yin-yang. The bottom line is you will be checked, and the dominants have exactly what it takes to check you, no matter how large you get, even this organization. So in this video, you can hear from their own mouths, from the mouths of the Ruff Ryders themselves, telling you what happened in a specific incident where they were actually checked by the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club. And I first came into contact with this organization in the summer of 1999 when I was making the movie Biker Boys. Wink 100 was one of their legendary founders, and we hired him to come in to do most of the stunts, if not all the stunts, for the main character in the movie, biker boys, where I was a technical advisor. Now, no one could believe, even then, how wildly popular they were and how fast they grew and how fast they were growing, seemingly springing up out of nowhere and growing faster than any MC around, including my own 20-plus-year-old MC at the time. And we just couldn't believe how crazy they were growing. And even though it wasn't a motorcycle club, because you bought your colors and that's how you got in, but that doesn't mean that they didn't have a brotherhood and a sisterhood. And they just grew like crazy. They had the record label behind them, and they had all the flyest chicks. They were riding badass race bikes back then. They had that party spirit like you would never believe. And these guys were, they were stunners, what we called stunners back then. They could ride wheelies down the street like you would never believe. Endos, wheelies with girls on the back, endos with girls on the back, blocks and blocks and blocks, is what they used to say. Matched only by groups like the Georgia All-Stars and the Dirty South Slab Riders, number one stunners, and other young groups like that. They were already ahead of their time, and they were hot, hot, hot. It was no wonder that they soon had chapters all over the world. But this story, as told by the Ruff Ryders themselves, happened when the Phoenix Hells Angels came calling to find out who this pop-up club was that had set up an MC in their neck of the woods without following MC protocol. So the first thing that we learn in watching this video, and this is an interesting video, and I think you're gonna find it interesting. And I've kind of chopped it up some for my for my look at it. This is kind of a reaction video for me. So I have left the full links to this video, part 1 and part 2, which I would definitely advise you to go see, because you really want to see the whole thing. It's a very interesting look into this group and how it got started. But they were hanging out in Phoenix, Arizona, doing their thing. They had set up their organization in Phoenix, Arizona. And the first thing we learn is that when a dominant rolls up, and that's what happened. The Hells Angels rolled up on them at a function at a club they were at to enforce on them. The Hells Angels came. They wanted to know who they were and what they were doing. So first thing we learn is that when a dominant rolls up on an enforcement action, they're not coming to lose. They already have assessed the situation. They know how many brothers they need to make it all go down. I've actually been in that situation before. So when they come, they use a technique first made popular by Schwarzkopf and Colin Powell, and that's called shock and awe. So you're going to hear them talk about that from their own viewpoint and kind of let you know what that felt like. So we're going to go ahead and roll that.
We're at the strip club partying one night, and it was kind of crazy because the doorman knew me from back in the day being in the streets, and we never had any issues. We're sitting there, and all of a sudden we heard fucking just pipes. I was like, what the fuck? We're sitting there partying, motorcycle pipes, and somebody comes in and goes, yo, who's the president? Y'all need to come outside. Hells Angels show up, their doorman's working the door. How deep? Deep enough that when we went outside, I think it might have been 10 of us. So we got 10 bikes, which in Phoenix at that time, if you got 10 bikes rolling at one time, it looks good. They showed up maybe about 50, 55 deep, strapped, ready for whatever. And we get outside, and it's like, what's happening? What's going on? What's the problem? I'm not going to front. They came through deep as shit, and they checked us in the parking lot.
They had
on some
sentinels.
If you're not who you say you are, it's going down tonight. It's going to be a fucking rumble in this parking lot. And they're like, hold on, we just want to know what's going on. And I was like, the Ruff Ryders, we're partying at the club. And they're like, well, you guys, our motorcycle club, more or less, they call it now checking in. You didn't check in with us, so we want to know who and what you're about.
Actually, it's called getting a blessing and following MC protocol. And if you fail to do either, well, you may find your club in a similar situation, trying to explain who you are and what you are doing in Arizona or wherever it is that you are without a blessing. And of course, you may, many of you, just getting started in this MC world have no idea about what I'm talking about, just like they didn't have any idea. That's why I made this channel for you. So this kind of thing doesn't catch you unaware. So the Ruff Ryders Motorsports Organization had to explain that they were not actually a motorcycle club. They were instead an extreme bike club that operated as a record label crew or a motorcycle street team. And for those of you who are not familiar with what a street team is, or a street crew, or a record label support crew, they kind of come in and hype up a city with flyers and promotions, and in this case, motorcycle tricks and shows and things like that. Like before the artist gets there to do to do a concert, and then they keep things rolling. If it's a long weekend, they're involved. So they're in support of the label and support of that record label coming in, and they help to get everybody excited and gin up the crowd and get the crowds coming, so they're part of the show. And so that's what these guys were, only they did it on motorcycle. So that's why they didn't have rockers, weren't flying the MC. They weren't trying to be a motorcycle club. So when it's realized that they're not trying to encroach on MC territory as a motorcycle club, things start to get better for them. They're almost off the hook, but there's more that has to happen. You got a few things going on here. There's some more checkups. So first of all, are you really truly part of the Ruff Ryders that are on the East Coast? So phone calls are going to be made back that way to find out. The dominant is going to do their due diligence, because if you're not who you say you are, it's getting ready to be on and popping right here and right now. If you're not really part of that group, if you just came over here and you're fronting, so these phone calls have to be made, and there has to be a go-ahead button that's pushed. They've got to call back to whoever the leaders are back on the East Coast and make sure that you even have permission to be doing that thing. And then there's another problem. You see, the Ruff Ryders spelled their name R-U-F-F, Riders, R-Y-D-E-R-S, so it was Ruff Ryders spelled a different way, spelled incorrectly, Ryders spelled incorrectly. And having that name was cool, except for the fact that there was another club there rocking the name Ruff Ryders spelled the right way, R-U-G-H-R-D-E-R-S. And those Ruff Ryders had been around a while. They might have even been one percenters themselves, old school, hardcore, traditional riding MC. And although MC protocol does allow for two motorcycle clubs to have the same name, you're not gonna come into a town and do something like that. It's typically maybe two clubs that got started at the same time in different parts of the country. And if something like that's gonna happen, it's damn sure gonna have the permission of the original Ruff Ryders. And so that's what the Hells Angels are on. So now that you're out of trouble with us particularly, we know you're not trying to be an MC, you still have an issue. And that issue is there's another organization running around here called the Ruff Ryders. And these were old cats, these were white boys, had been around a long time. And they are gonna need to be satisfied. And so the Hells Angels are like, you're gonna have a sit down with those guys in order to make that happen. In addition to, they're going to call the leadership back in Wisconsin to do checking up and making sure things are going right. There's a whole process that happens. This process, now if you follow MC protocol and you were to get your blessing, go to the COC or whatever, this would have all been handled. But now this is going to be handled differently. It's going to be handled in the course of a few days, and it's going to be phone calls to verify the lineage, to make sure that you're good to rock and you're good to go. So that was going to be what happened. There's going to be a sit down, or there's going to be a war. So that's what you'll see them talk about next. Go ahead, roll that.
And I'm like, yo, we're the president. And they're like, okay, so where's your patch, your rockers? They have some rockers. Shit, we're like, what do you mean rockers? Look, bro, we just Ruff Ryders. We're an extreme bike club. We get out here, we wild out, we do
We're a
wheelies.
lifestyle, pretty
At
much.
that point, it's like, DMX, fucking stop, drop. Yeah, we just kind of come in, we do the video side of that. But they're expanded, but we're not an official bike club. And once we get an understanding of, okay, Ruff Ryders isn't an official motorcycle club. It's a lifestyle.
Who rides motorcycles?
Who rides motorcycles.
It's
They
a
accepted
record
us
label
little.
support team, right? Well, how does it? You would know the
Street team.
verbiage.
It's a motorcycle
Yeah,
street team.
Yeah.
So when we come out, they're like, okay, so you guys aren't really trying to be a motorcycle club. And we're like, no. We just want to ride bikes, wild out, do wheelies. After they realized who we were and what was going on, they kind of just...
And that we wasn't trying to be an MC or we wasn't an MC, then they kind of like...
Then they said, though, but there is one hurdle. Because now, because of making the noise, there is the other Ruff Ryders that have been here, established, old school, white, long beard. You got to remember, we're green. We don't know a lot about respect and how, the pecking order, how things work in the bike.
We're learning
the
as
bike
we
scene.
go.
We're learning this
So
shit as
we got
go.
called in. They said, Hell's Angels told us, look, you got to make it right
with the
these
Ruff
guys.
Ryders.
I know they're starting something in Phoenix, but I don't know how heavy it is. So I'm out in Wisconsin, and I get a call from the head of Hell's Angels.
The head. Oh,
The
in
head.
Phoenix?
No, in Wisconsin,
Oh, okay.
like of the world, Craig. So I get a call, and they say, "Yo, we got these cats in Phoenix going up, and it's Ruff Ryders." I'm like, I don't know them, because he told me the RUGH, the correct spelling. I'm like, I don't know them. So he's like, all right, well, here's the deal. We don't really like what y'all doing. You know what I mean? You're not a real club. You're a lifestyle. What do they call it? Social club, so forth. and so
Social
on.
club.
But he says, but you outnumber us. We're the second largest motorcycle organization on the planet.
Who was first?
The police. 20, 30,000. I mean, his Ruff Ryders only speak English. But anyways, I get a call and he says, yeah, I don't really like what y'all doing, but y'all
That is crazy.
y'all outnumber us. So I'm like, all right, that's cool. So what's up? He said, give me the correct spelling of Ruff Ryders. I said, I don't know him. And I ended up sitting with this dude. I was scared. I was the only black person in the building, and I was amongst some real situations. I get a call, and then he says, you make the call, and it's Ruff Ryders, R-U-F-F. He said, but there's another Ruff Ryders set down there, R-U-G-H. Which one are you affiliated with? I said, I'm the R-U-F-F, the one that's not spelled correctly. I said, and I met them briefly in New York before this meeting. I met him in New York. It was...
Me, KB, and Tito.
Yeah, it was these. Matter of
These
fact,
three.
Damn.
Yeah.
These three. It was us.
When I met in New York,
Yeah.
it was us.
Yeah.
And when I met y'all, I was out.
remember that
I just
shit.
got out of a 2-year bid on Rikers Island for like 24 hours, and I met these guys for like briefly, and then we kicked it for the weekend. And we split ways. They cool and all that. I know them. Let them rock. He said, all right, cool. We're gonna let them rock. So apparently, you made some calls, and that was that.
So now that the calls have been made back and the Hells Angels have told them, okay, what you're going to do is you're going to get in touch with the Ruff Ryders. The funny thing about it is the Ruff Ryders were making moves of their own. They had, they were a motorcycle club standing up on their own 2 feet. They had approached another part of their crew somewhere else in another spot at some sort of meeting or get down or some sort of club or whatever. And this is, moving along the same line. As soon as they found out, they're making their move locally. Even though the Hells Angels are doing their thing, these Ruff Ryders come through these original Ruff Ryders, get in touch with them, send some boys to them and tell them, you're going to sit down and meet with us. We got a problem with you. And if you don't meet with us, there's going to be a war. So they ordered a sit down, which is really kind of interesting. And of course, the brand new Ruff Ryders get invited to this sit down, and you can tell they're young and they're new and they don't know what they're doing, because basic etiquette will tell you that you never meet an enemy in their own territory, in their own stronghold. I've made that mistake myself. And when you show up, they're going to outnumber you. They're going to have their support clubs around. They're going to be well prepared to create your demise if they have to, if things go bad. They know you're coming strapped. They're going to be ready for that. So, and this is where you find out who's really down or not. Because a lot of people will put on that patch and talk that noise. But when it's time to go and meet up with those guys, you'll find that a lot of times your numbers are going to swell, or rather shrink. Instead of swell, they're going to shrink. And they're going to go down to the hardest cats in the crew. And if you got 8 or 10 guys going over to something like that, you don't have nearly enough. But that's exactly what they had to do. And they made the mistake of going and meeting these guys on their territory. And so they tell you what that was like. So go ahead and run that clip.
They came
They came
were
deep to check
They
us.
want to see who are these guys, because we're everywhere. So they said, look, you guys, we need to have a sit down. They ran up on some of our guys at like a little bike night thing they did, like Filiberto's or whatever in Glendale, and said, look, tell your people you need to come meet us at a clubhouse or it's war. Like, it's on, right?
We're 24, 25 years old.
We're learning as we go.
We didn't sign up for this. I'm doing wheelies a couple months earlier. You know, I'm just doing wheelies. That's my claim to fame. I'm Killer B. I do wheelies on Scottsdale Road.
doing bike shit.
Cops chase me. I get away. Whatever. That's it.
Like, we took the mentality of,
man up,
this is dumb.
and we're gonna go
we're
do
gonna
our
man
thing.
up. We're gonna meet them. If they fucking pull out straps at the end of the day, motherfucker, we strap too. We meet up with those guys, and it goes similar to the Hell's Angels meeting. Look, we're not trying to steal
let's
your
preface the
name.
story though. We go to this behind like a trailer park
It was some
clubhouse,
Sons of
like
Anarchy
some
shit.
old Sons of Anarchy like clubhouse. They got sentinels outside. They're like mean mugging. Everybody comes in the door. There's no friendliness. It's not like, hey guys, thanks for coming. It was like
No, the shit was
inside.
real.
It was some real
And they
shit.
got exits. They got guys in every exit. Dudes on roofs. Like, yeah.
If shit goes wrong,
it's going down.
it's
Yeah.
going
You
down.
have to fight your way out.
So you gotta remember, we're walking into this.
How
and,
many of you went?
Maybe 8 to 10.
How
Yeah.
many of them were there?
Probably like 6
Shit,
to
their
8.
whole fucking club.
50.
However
Something
many they
like
had
that.
members
Yeah,
they
yeah.
had at that
Something
time.
like that.
They
Yep.
definitely
Far more than
outnumber us.
Yep. So the meeting, we go in. It's like a table. Sons of Anarchy. It's like a freaking table. You got the president, vice president, sergeant arms, whoever, all the chain of command. It's me, you,
Tito,
Louis. Was
Moose,
Louis?
Louis.
Yeah.
I forget. It's like eight of the hardest members in the crew that we just don't give a fuck. Like,
Yeah.
it is what it is. It's
So
how
we
it goes.
sat
But
down.
you guys all come from a background of when you're in the kids of being from.
At the end of the day,
Rough
you're going to
Ryders.
represent
Yeah.
your set. You're going to do what you're going to do.
And half the other members didn't want to fucking show up.
They didn't want to show
anyway.
up because they was
Fucking
worried about
pussies.
if it goes down,
Fucking
I
pussies.
want to go home tonight. At that time, we're young and dumb.
And that shit for the fucking vest. Oh, go ahead, that's another spot.
So we have the meeting with the Rough Riders. Everything works out. And shortly after that,
Now, when you say worked out, well,
it-
you said you left the Hells Angels kind of semi-friendly. Did you leave them neutral or kind of?
it was an
friendly?
understanding that, okay, you guys have a different name. You're not an actual motorcycle club. I don't know if a call came from Squirt where it was like, yo,
some of the most strongest alliances, friends throughout this, from Hell's Angels to Vagos
Soul
and
Brothers,
California. When we
fucking
went to
everybody.
Mexico, the Vagos,
Chosen
whatever.
Few.
Chosen few just by who we
Chosen.
were, like just being who we
we
were,
carried ourselves.
and
Just
how we
were,
carry
yeah.
ourselves, respect, whatever. So then, the meeting went well.
So at the end of it all, they were blessed to run around not as an MC, but as who they were, a social club, perhaps even an extravagant RC. But they had to prove that was what they had to prove. And had they been an MC, there would have been much more to follow, much more drama. And because they were the first to do what they did, others that have followed in their footsteps may not have been nearly so lucky. It's much harder these days to start any kind of a new MC organization up. And all in all, I thought their story was compelling. That chapter was not the first nor the last of their chapters to have to prove and establish themselves. But they've been around for probably pretty close to 20 years now, if not a little bit longer than that. And they are a viable and honorable organization. They really can stunt those bikes, or at least 20 years ago they could. They might be old now. A lot of them guys are on hogs now. But, you know, I guess we all grow up. I suggest you follow the links in the description to see the entire video and check out part 2, which details how their club began, which is a fascinating story. And just get to kind of see how that Rough Riders organization kind of came up. It's really kind of cool. Those R's were all over the place in every city, it seemed like, for the longest time. And it's really exciting to see their growth and know their story. So listen, Let me know what you think about that story. Leave your comments in the comment section below. And I'd love for you guys to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. We are putting that up there, trying to really get those numbers up on those channels. So we'd like to just build our following on those other channels. So please take that time and go over and follow me there. Also, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and hit the notification bell. As always, that's my 2 cents. Thanks for tuning in, and get skinny.